The most trending video on this channel was the one where I teach you email and password authentication in Flutter. But most of you were asking about social sign-in like Google, Facebook, Twitter and phone authentication. So today we are here to implement all of those authentication providers in one single video. Also, you have asked a lot of queries regarding shared preferences, and so I thought of creating an ultimate video which covers everything. So in this tutorial we will learn the social authentication, the shared preference for storing sessions, Cloud Firestore for our database, and also the provider state management. So let's roll that intro and see what we'll be building in this video. Okay, so here you can see we have our Android emulator and also our iPhone emulator on the right side of the screen, and on the left side we have our Firebase project. So now let me show you how everything looks like. So on our Android emulator, let's say I click on sign in with Google. So here it will ask me to choose a particular account, and if I click on this particular account which I have on my emulator, this will sign in to that particular account. And here we have welcome, MacFlick, and the email, the particular user ID, and we can and here you can see we are assigning a particular provider to this thing. Now if we reload the Firebase, here we have this particular email ID. Also in our database we should see a user collection and then the document ID. The document ID is the user ID which is generated by the Cloud Firestore automatically after the sign in of the user. And then we have all these fields like email, image, name, provider, and the user ID. So this was for Google. And now let me also show you that shared preference is also working. So if I open up my terminal, and here I guess this thing is running the Android emulator. If I reload, and this should show me the home screen, and here you can see we have the home screen here. Now if I sign out and reload the application, now we should be redirected to the sign in screen. This means shared preference is working on both the sides. I can just decrease this here, and let's see about our authentication with Facebook. So this sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, sign in with Twitter, and the phone authentication is working on both Android and iOS. So do stick to the end of the video to watch how to integrate these things in all those platforms. Now it is asking me to continue with the particular email ID that I have for the Facebook. Now the authentication is done. Here you can see it fetched my profile photo, the name, the email address, and it automatically assigned a particular user ID. This is not assigned by our Firebase, but this is assigned by the Facebook itself. We have the Facebook thing also. Now let's say I sign in with Twitter. I already have my email here, so I just need to click on authorize application, and boom, the sign in is completed. Now if I reload, I can see, and also in a Cloud Firestore we will be seeing all these entries. Like this one is for the Twitter, the name, email, the image, the user ID, and this one is for the Facebook. Now the final step is, let's say, continue with the phone authentication. I enter my phone here. I'm blurring this part in the video, so keep this information confidential, and I'm entering my name and also proceeding with entering an email address. Now after I click on register, it will open up a verifying you are not a robot section, and then show me a pop-up for entering the code. I just received the code on my real device. I will enter this, and if I click on confirm, we should be redirected here. So this is the particular dummy image that we are fetching. And now if I go to this authentication section, here you can see we have a new phone authentication added, and also in our Cloud Firestore we should be seeing this number, the email address. This is a particular dummy image, the name, the provider, and the user ID. So this is everything that we'll be building in this tutorial. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first and foremost thing that we need to do is we will open up a terminal, and here let me go to my documents where I store all my projects, and here we will create a new Flutter project. We will write this name as blog auth. We'll keep this name as simple as it can be. Now we will go to blog auth, and now we will open this in our Visual Studio Code. You can exit this. I trust the author, And here you can see we have this new project created. Now the thing that we need to delete from here is the Linux folder, because we are not developing it for Linux, the Mac OS, and also our Windows. We'll be only having this main.dart file. Okay, so now the first and foremost thing that we need to do here is we will just open up my simulator. Okay, so now we will run the application. Okay, so we have the dummy application which comes pre-installed with the Flutter. So now what we need to do is, first of all, we will be linking the Firebase to our application. So for linking the Firebase to our application, we will just get back to our Chrome and go to this link. You can directly search for Firebase if you want, and then go from here, the Firebase console. I have directly entered the link here. We'll click on create a new project and we will write this block auth. We'll click on continue. We don't need Google Analytics for this, so we'll be disabling them, and we'll click on create project. So by the time it is creating the project, let me tell you what things we will be implementing. So in this particular series, we will be adding Firebase to iOS and Android, then doing Google and Facebook authentication, managing shared preference. So in this part 1, we'll be doing all these tasks. So we got a project created. Now the thing that we need to do is we will be clicking on this iOS and we'll be adding the particular iOS simulator to our project. So for doing that, we will be opening up our Xcode. So we got our Xcode open. Now we'll click on open a project or file, and we'll go to the document folder where we just created this app, and we'll go to this block auth, and then iOS, and then we'll click on open. Now the benefit of this would be we will be able to find the bundle identifier. We can directly get this in info.plist file. If you can see this, the bundle identifier, but what we wanted is we will be doing directly, but what we will be also doing is we will be saving the configuration file also. So we can open up Xcode here and click on register application. I'll just wait for this, and I'll click on download Google services info.plist, and I'll drag this here. And click on finish. Okay, and click on next, click on next, click on next, and click on continue to console. So we don't need much information right there, and now we can just close this thing. The other important thing that we also need to do is we will be adding the Android application also right now. So we can just click on this add app and click on this Android. And now for adding the Android application, it is asking us for the package name. So we can go to this manifest file. You can also go from Android app main and then a manifest. And here you can see we got the package name. So we'll just copy this. And we'll write block auth. And now it is asking for the SHA signature, so we'll open up a terminal, and now I have a separate video for SHA generation if you have any issue. If you don't have any issue, then you can just write, then you can just go to .cd and .android, and now here you can see we have the debug key store. So we will write key tool list v key store debug.keystore alias. So you need to just enter this command, and now it is asking for the password. It is Android. And now we got our SHA signature. We'll just copy and paste it here. I have a separate video on this. If you have any issue, you can just watch that particular video in which I have proceeded with the installation of SHA and Java JDK in both our Windows and also our macOS. And click on next, or rather we don't need to click on next. We need to download this Google services.json file. We can exit the terminal. We don't need the terminal here. And yeah. So the file downloaded. Now we need to drag this into app folder, and do remember to replace everything. You can just press enter and replace everything that is present after this services, and we need to keep this in particular format, Google services.json. Now the next thing it is asking us is adding the Firebase SDK to the project level. So the project level is this Android level, and here you can see we have this build.gradle. So on this place we have to add this class path, and other than that we don't need to do anything here. And now it's time for app level. So this was the project. Now we have the app level build.gradle. So you can just write apply plugins, and then the next thing is implementation platform. One more thing that I usually love to do is I will enable the multi-dex. Okay, and the minimum target SDK which I can set is 21, and rest everything is okay. If any issues come after we are running the application, we will just change that thing too. So I guess Firebase authentication is about to start. So we got all the application registered here. One more thing, as we are using Google, Twitter and also our Facebook for the authentication, we also can add the SSH signature for more security for the application. You just need to go to the CD Android and then just write the particular command that you used earlier, and let me write the password Android. We have the SSH 256. You can just copy paste and save it here. So I guess everything is looking fine from this thing. We can now go to this, and now in our authentication we can click on get started. And so the providers that we'll be using is the Google, Facebook, the phone and the Twitter. So now before doing that, do remember to add this particular extension, because this will help you to add all the packages that I'm going to tell in one go. So all you need to do is you can just enter this command. If you are on Windows, then Control Shift P, and if you are on a Mac, then Command Shift P, and this will open up the command palette, and here we can write add dependencies. Now the dependencies that we need to add here is, so we are using Firebase, so definitely we'll be needing our Firebase core. We are also using the Firebase authentication, so we'll be using Firebase Auth. Then the next thing that we'll be doing for this part one is the Google sign-in. So we will write Google sign-in, and other than the Google sign-in, we are also going with our Facebook sign-in also. So we will call the package, this is the Flutter Facebook authentication package. And the important thing is we'll be using provider for state management, so we will call provider also here. So I guess everything is fine for now, or I think we are also in need of our cloud Firestore. This will act as a database because we will be saving the authentication data in our cloud Firestore. Remember, we are not using a real-time database that is present in Firestore, because in modern documentation and in modern practice, it is generally considered to use cloud Firestore. So now if you can click on enter, now the beauty of this extension is that it will look for all the packages with the particular name, and if there is no package with that name, it will show you a drop down of the suggested item. You can select from that. I guess everything that I entered was correct. So now it will do a Flutter pub get. And now in order to make this thing run on my simulator, first of all I need to just quit this simulator, and I guess I'll just open my terminal, and Flutter pub get is successfully run. Now if you go to the iOS folder, we have this pod file. So the thing that we need to do here with our pod file is we will just increase the iOS version to 12, and rest everything is working fine. If you are not on a M1 Mac, then you can just directly write pod install, but remember you need to be in this directory, this block auth and then this iOS folder. You cannot just enter the command in this directory block auth. You need to be in this iOS folder. So you can just go here, and now the thing that we need to do is, you can, if you are on not on a Mac, M1 Mac, you can write pod install, but as I am on a M1 Mac, so I have to write this command arch x8664 pod install. Now what this will do is it will do a pod install for me of all the packages that we just added to our Pubspec YAML file. Just wait for this to finish. Okay, so what we can do is we can click on exit here, and now let's run our application. After this run the Xcode build, I guess for the first time it will take a little bit of time, but after that it will be fine. I'll be right back after this. Okay, so here you can see we got the application running. This means the Firebase is successfully installed. Now what we can do here is we will first of all delete everything that is present here in main.dart file, and here we will write import material.dart, and then we will write void main and run application. Now we need to create a stateless widget here. This will be my app, which will return our material app. Okay, perfect. So now we can just write the name here, my app. We'll provide a const value, and inside this material app, the thing that we need to do here is we need to first of all show the splash screen. So now let me just do the folder structure here. Now we can create a folder screens, we can create a folder utils, and we can create a folder provider. Okay, so inside a provider we will write sign in provider .dart, and we will also be needing an internet provider which will check whether we have successful internet connection or not. For adding, or rather for checking that particular internet connectivity, we will be also adding up one more package here, but let's go with first of all sign in with provider, then we have internet provider, and in the screens we will first of all create a splash screen. So we can write import material.dart splash screen state full widget, and here we will return a scaffold, and inside this main.dart file we will call the home as splash screen. We can provide a const value here, and we will disable the debug banner. Now this was for the application, where we need to also initialize the application. So we will write widgets flutter binding dot ensure initialize, and also we will call our Firebase here. So this will be async. We'll write Firebase dot initialize app. Click on save, and you can also see if we do hot reload, everything is working fine. Yeah, so now we'll go back to our splash screen, and here inside our splash screen, the thing that we will be needing here is, let's say we have this scaffold, then body can be safe area, and we can create a center widget with an image as a set image. Now first of all, if we go to the finder, I'll just get the current project that I have. Okay, and here you can see we have this asset, so I'll copy this image and I'll just reveal this in Finder. Here I'll create a new folder. This will be assets. Remember, this asset folder will be in the base directory, that is block authentication, and here I will paste this particular logo. And in this util we can create a config file. So this will be class config, this will be static final app icon, and we can write assets logo.png. And if you go to our Pubspec YAML file, we can delete all this unnecessary information from here. We will write if you can see the format here, we can uncomment this thing here, assets, images, and now in a splash screen we'll call our config and we'll provide the app icon here. Okay, I think I am making a mistake here. First of all, we will have to provide this inside an image widget. The image can be image asset, config, app icon, height can be, let's say, 80, width can be 80. If I click on OK, so we have this splash logo here. We can, okay. Now the thing that we need to do here is we need to create a init state. So we have to go to a sign in provider, and here what we will be doing is we will write sign in provider. This will extend change notifier, and whenever this sign in provider is called, we will first of all do our function sign in user. Inside this function we will check whether the user is signed in or not. So this will be a future function, so we will write check sign in user. This will be async. Okay, so we forgot to add shared preferences here, so we will write shared preferences. This has added the shared preferences to us, and if you write, basically why I added shared preferences, whenever a user is signed into the application, we will be saving a boolean value that the is signed in is equals to true. This means, let's say a user signed in with Google, so when that authentication occurs and when the sign in is successful, we will be updating the boolean value to be true. And every time our sign in provider, this provider is called, we will be checking whether the user is signed in or not. So for checking that, we will be calling the shared preferences to get that particular value from our storage. So we'll write shared preferences s, this can be shared preferences dot get instance, and now we have to check whether is signed in. So we don't have this particular thing here, so this means we have to create it. So we can create a boolean value is signed in, which will be false for now. Bool get is signed in. Perfect. And now if we assign this, so now whenever the function is called, so now whenever the provider is called, we will be going to this check sign in function, and here in this check sign in function we will get this is signed in instance, is signed in boolean value, and we will update with get bool is signed in. If it is true, then it will be storing a boolean value of true, else it will store a boolean value of false, and then we can just notify our listeners. So this was for the sign in provider. Now here let's see whether this sign in provider is working or not. So here you can see we have HomeScreen.dart, and then we have LoginScreen.dart. So let me just create a stateful widget, login screen. We will return a scaffold, and this can be body, center, child, text, login screen. We'll be doing the same for our home screen also, and we will return a scaffold, body, center, child, text, home screen. And now let's see whether our sign in provider is working perfectly fine or not. Right now the is signed in value would be false because we don't have anything stored in our data, in our app storage with the name of this is signed, with the name of this signed in. So let me just create an init value. Init value will be the state whenever the application loads whenever this screen loads, the init value will be the first value that it will be loading up. So here we can create init, and now for first of all we have to call the sign in provider. So we will write sp sign in provider. This will be context.read. Now read will not be showing here, so the thing that we need to do here is we will import our provider package for state management. So we will read our sign in provider, and then one more thing that we need to do here is we will go to our main.dart file. First of all, the thing will be we are returning a material app as of now, but right now we will be returning we can wrap this with the widget. This will be multi provider, and the providers can be change notification provider, create context provider will be sign in provider. I guess one more bracket is needed. Perfect. Now if you have not initialized this in the main.dart file, then this will not work here in any of the screen for the application. So now what we can do here next is we will create a timer of 2 seconds to fetch the particular boolean value and then migrate to the particular screen. So we will write timer, duration can be seconds, 2 seconds, and I guess this is showing me an error. If we see this, we have to import this Dart async. Now if the instance and this value is equals to false, if this is false, this means we have to go to the sign in screen. So we will write navigator dot push replacement. This will be material page route, and we need to go to our sign in screen, or rather this was login screen with the name that we created, and we need to create another condition here. I'll just copy it here and paste it here. So instead of this, we'll go to our home screen. Perfect. Now let me just reload the application and see. Okay, so this is not able to establish a connection because we don't have because we have to reload this thing again in order to make shared preferences work. So let me just reload the application again. Okay, so we got the application loaded, and here you can see, let me just show you again. If on the splash screen we have nothing in the is signed in variable, this will be splash screen. So this is false as of now, so that's the reason we are redirected to the login screen, and if this would have been true, then we would have been redirected to the home screen. So now what we will be doing here is we'll be going to our login screen, and then we will be customizing a little bit of functionality there. So this can be, let's say, a scaffold is okay. We will be providing a scaffold key. So we will write final global key. This will be scaffold key, and scaffold state. Perfect. So if we can just scaffold key, background color can be colors.white as usual, and the body can be safe area, and then a child of padding from all the, let's say padding from only left can be 40, right can be 40, top can be 90, and bottom can be 30. Then we will have a child of column. Let me just reload. Okay, inside this child we will be providing first of all a cross-axis alignment inside this column. So this will be start, and then we will have some childrens like a flexible with a flex of 2, and the child can be column. Okay, we are using start because we want the logo to be starting from the left side of the screen, that means to the start of the column. So the children can be image, this will be asset image, config, app icon. This is a quite big size right now, 80 fit can be box fit dot cover. Perfect. And after this image we can provide a size box, and then a text as welcome to Flutter Authentication. Let's say provide some text style to it, 20. This can be 500. Okay, so this is okay, we are not focusing much on that design thing. And then we can create another text, learn authentication with provider. Font size can be 15, and we want this to be a gray. Color dot gray. Perfect. Yeah. So let me just go to my web browser and show you one amazing package that I'll be using here is rounded loading button. So this is the package that we'll be using. Let me just copy it. So whenever we click on this button, it will do a rounded loading, and if it is success, then it will detect, then this will give me a tick, and on reset it will retain its original state. So this is a quite good package. So I'll just go and write the name of this here, and this will do a flutter pub get. And now let me create a column with some cross-axis alignment of center and the main axis alignment of center. The children will be a rounded loading button. Now this rounded loading button needs a controller. So we will write rounded loading button controller. First of all, we will write Google controller. Then we'll write, so we are doing Google and Facebook in this part, so we'll write Facebook controller. And here we can write Google controller. The other thing that this will have is success color will be colors.green, or rather successful color for a Google can be red, and the child can be wrap with a children font awesome icons. So we have to add icons. So in order to fetch the Google icon, we will be adding font awesome icons. So let me add that too. So this was the thing that I was talking about, this package. Here you can see I entered some wrong text and it just went to the pub.dev and it fetched all the package with that particular search query and it displayed them to me. So here we need this font awesome. And now if we take the icon, this will be font awesome icons dot Google. Size can be 20, color can be colors dot white. I guess we need some more properties here. On pressed is required, so we'll write on pressed. Let me grab it. Okay, so we have this thing here. Let's see. Okay, so this is working also. Let me just reload the application again. We go to the splash screen, then we go to the authentication screen, and now in this icon, the other thing that we can do here is we can write site box with a width of 15 and then write a text, sign in with Google, and we can provide some text style as font size can be 16 or rather 15, let's say. Font weight as usual, font weight dot 500. Let me just close this and close this also so that you can see a much bigger picture from here. And the font can be colors.white. Let me tell you why I am writing this colors.white everywhere. So the color for this button will be colors.red. So we have the success color here, and now we can provide a width. So we want the width to be somewhat, let's say 80% of the total width that is available. So in order to calculate that particular width, how you can do that is, first of all we will get the total width of our screen and then we will multiply it with 80%. So if you see this, 80%, 0.8, perfect, and the width got increased. And now we can do an elevation of 0, border radius can be 25, and this is okay. Now the other thing that we'll be doing is a Facebook login button. So we'll just copy everything that is present here. I'll paste it again. This will be Facebook controller. Colors can be colors.blue. This can be 10, and we need this to be blue. Success color will be blue. Elevation can be this is okay. Facebook controller, Facebook, sign in with Facebook, done. So we have this sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook. Now the only thing that we need to do is shift back to our sign-in provider to code up the logic behind authentication for this. First of all, we will be coding for the Google. So let me just go to my Chrome and enable the Google authentication first. I will go to the particular project that we created in the earlier part. We'll go to this authentication part and we will set up a sign-in method. Sign-in method will be Google. I'll click on enable and this support email. I'll click on save. And that's it. the sign-in provider for Google has been successfully enabled in this Firebase project. And the next thing that we'll be needing here is we can go to this build folder, and here we have this Firestore database. This is the database that will be storing all the authentication data. So right now we can create this thing. It will take a little bit of time for it to come, but we can just create a database right now. There is no issue in that. We'll create and start in production mode and click on enable and just wait for this to finish. By the time it is doing the provision cloud Firestore, let me just tell you what things we need to add here. In the manner that we have created this signed in instance, we have to also create instance like has error code, then provider. This will be Google provider, Facebook provider, or a Twitter provider, or a phone authentication provider. And we have to create the same for UID, same for email, same for name, same for image URL, and that's it. So let's start creating those. First of all, we have to create has error. This will be false, and you can see this, and you can see the power of tab 9. So you can just install this tab 9, and it is a great way for auto completion. Right now I am on a free plan, so no need to purchase a pro plan, because everything in this free plan is also works perfectly fine. So we have has error created. Now the thing that we have to do here is we'll create a string value for error code, and the pool, and this can be get error code. Now the provider, the same that we did here, provider. Now the user ID, see, the tab 9 is working so brilliant that all the auto completion for me has been done by them. And I just need to press tab and look at the auto completion part. Has error is done, is signed in is done, provider is done, UID is done, email, image URL. Only the thing that we are left with is a name. And now let me just tell you something. Here you can see we have this authentication part, and we have this database. So the thing that we'll be storing to our CloudStore database are, first of all, let me just do this. So the first thing that we'll be storing is the image URL. Second thing will be the name. Third thing will be our email. Fourth thing will be user ID. And the last thing will be provider. So after every authentication, we will be getting the values in this particular sign-in provider, and then storing those values to the CloudStore database. So now we can create a sign-in with Google. So for this Google, or rather sign in with Google, what we need to do here is we will first of all call our sign-in account through which we want to do the sign-in, and then we will wait for Google sign-in to take place. And remember, we have to create instance here, instance of Firebase Auth, Facebook and Google. So this will be final Firebase Auth dot get instance, Then we'll have Facebook Auth, Facebook Auth dot instance. And then we have Google sign in, and here we will write Google sign in dot sign in. So this will store the sign in information to this particular Google sign in account that has been passed to here. And now we have to check whether this particular thing that we got as a response is null or not. So if this Google sign in account that we got is not equal to null, only then we will be executing our authentication. And if this is not null, then what we can do here is we will write else condition, and has error, the boolean value that we created here will become to true, and then we will notify our listeners. Now other than that, now let's say we have this as not null here, and the Google sign in account has some value in it. So we need to try a particular thing, and on Firebase auth exception will catch all those values here. So in this try method, what we will be doing is we will be writing Google sign in authentication. This will be Google sign in authentication, and then we will wait for that particular Google sign in account that we have above to do the authentication for us. After we got the authentication, then we will be storing all the auth credential. This auth credential is a part of the Firebase. We'll be storing all the credentials here, and the credential we can get from auth provider dot credential. Credential here means that the access token. So this access token we will be getting from Google sign in authentication part. Google sign in authentication dot access token, and then we need ID token, which will be ID token. Perfect. So we got a credential here. Now the final thing that we'll be doing is sign in to Firebase user instance. So this will be final user details. This will be Firebase auth dot sign in with credential, and the credential, let's say we have this async, so this will be await, we're storing the value in user. Perfect. And now it's time to save all the values that we get in this user details instance. Okay, so let me just shift it here, and now, so I guess you got your answer. So we will be saving all those values in this instance that we created. So first of all, a name would be user detail dot display name, and email can be user detail dot email, and then we have the image URL, which will be image URL. Okay, so there is nothing as image URL here, so this will be photo URL, and then we will be storing the provider as Google. So this is a custom storage, so this is a custom value that we will be storing here. Now let me just see if there were some other values that we are also going to import. The image URL is done, the name is done, the email is done, the user ID, yeah, user ID. Okay, and then all we need to do is notify the listeners, and we need to maintain this thing if any case happens. So let's say you can just visit this Flutter auth exception library. Rather, this is Firebase auth exception. I was writing Flutter auth exception. We have this particular code here, account exist. So we can write switch e.code case with this. We will be displaying the error code as you already have an account with us, use correct provider, and then we'll return a has provider as has error as true, notify the listener, and then break. We can create a case of null here also. If this is null, so we'll write some unexpected error while trying to sign in, and has error will be true and notify the listener, and the break, and at last the default error code will be e2 string and has error true, notify listener true. So this was everything related to the error handling. Many of you guys were asking how can you manage the error handling that are done in Firebase authentication. So that's the reason I coded this thing for you guys. Now the thing that we need to do here is, I guess everything is working fine. That we can go to a login screen. We will be creating a new function handling Google sign in. So this will be future handle Google sign in. This will be an async function, and we can assign this thing here whenever this button is clicked. So on pressed. Perfect. So first of all, we will be calling our instance. So final sp context dot read. So read is not showing us to. So read is not showing to us. This means we need to import the provider package. Now we can go back there, and then we'll be calling our sign in provider. One of the important thing that we'll be doing is internet provider. So for that, I guess I have to show you the package. So the package name is connectivity, rather not the connectivity, because this connectivity has been discontinued, rather a new enhanced version is this connectivity plus. So we'll just copy, paste it here, and by the time it is doing a Flutter pub get for us, we will be just seeing everything that we can do here. So we can just import, we can fetch the current connectivity result, and of the current connectivity result is a mobile, and this means we are connected to the mobile network. If the connectivity result is a Wi-Fi network, then that means we are connected to the Wi-Fi network. All we need to see whether the connection is established or not. So we can go to our internet provider, and here we'll do an internet provider which will extend the chain notifier, and bool has internet. This is same as the one we created is signed in. So this will be bool get has internet. Perfect. And whenever this sign in provider is called, we will be fetching this function. We can create a future function here. Check internet connection. This will be async, and here if you see the usage, we can get the result. So this will be await connectivity dot check connectivity. If result is equal to connectivity result dot none, has internet will be false. This means there is no result for the internet, then this value will be false, else this value will be true, and we can just notify our listeners about this particular action. Perfect. We also need to call this here in our main.dart file, else this will not be working fine. We'll just copy that thing from there and we'll write internet provider. Perfect. We'll just close the application and run the app again so as to reload the connectivity package that we just added. Okay, so we have just restarted our application, and here you can see we have this connectivity package successfully added. So we can go to the internet provider. This is completed. We've also added this in our main.dart file. Now the only thing or the only place that we have to call here is this place. This will be internet provider. Now first of all, we need to wait for the internet provider to get active. Check internet connection, and after this provider has checked the internet connection, we can go to the IP and we can has internet, and if this is a false, then we will open a snack bar. Right now we don't have this property, so we can go to this utils and go and write a snack bar here. This will be open snack bar. We can get the content, the snack message, and the color if we want. For the error we can give the red color, and for the success we can get somewhat like a green color. Here we need to import our material. So this will be scaffold messenger dot off contact, and then we will be showing a snack bar. This will be snack bar. Content would be text snack message, and the text style can be, let's say, 14. Const value, I guess we got the content here. We can get the background color as this, and yeah, we don't need any on press, or rather we can display a snack bar action with a label. Okay, and the text color can be white. On press would be null for now. If we come here, we'll call our snack bar. Context will be context. Check your internet connection. Colors can be colors.red, and we can do the reset of these buttons. If by chance they have been pressed and we don't have internet connection, though they will be loading up content consistently, so we need to just close that. Else we will await for sign in provider to sign in with Google, and if the sign is completed, okay, so now here is the important part. So first of all, we will call our sign in provider, then we will sign in with Google, and here if this sign in provider has error, then we will do open snack bar. Okay, so I forgot to remove this Google controller, or rather this whole Google sign in will only be activated when we click on this sign in with Google. So we don't need to remove add this Facebook controller.reset here. We only need to add this Google controller.reset. What here it means is, let's say a user comes and clicks on this sign in with Google. So if we have the internet, then we can move to this particular part where we will be where we'll be proceeding with the sign-in process. But if the internet is not present, that will be only showing the snack bar that check your internet connection. But as we have clicked this sign-in with Google, so it will be constantly loading and not resulting in anything. So we just need to reset the state of this. So we'll be writing Google controller.reset here, and this will be red. And as far as error is concerned, so we will go with error code .toString, and again we will just reset the controller here. If there is no error, so this was when the error is there. If there is no error, we need to check. So checking whether user exists or not. So how you can check that particular thing here is, we will be going to our sign-in provider, and here we have the check sign-in user. So this will be checking whether user is signed in onto the application or not. We don't need to touch that part. This is sign in with Google. So now we need to create another function, which will be, first of all, we can also create a sign out function. We have not created sign out till now. So this will be async. This will be await Firebase auth sign out, await Google sign in sign out, and we can just update this value is signed in the false, notify listeners, and then clear or storage information. So this storage information will be all the data that is saved through shared preferences. So we need to create a function. Let's say clear stored data. This will be an async. We'll call the instance of shared preferences here. Get instance, and now we will do a clear of everything that has been stored here. So clear, or rather this can be clear stored data. So the sign out and the clearing of everything has been done here, but this was not the thing that we wanted to implement. We wanted to implement a check in a database to see whether user exists or not. So Cloud Firestore. First of all, let me go to this Cloud Firestore, and here in the rules section, the important thing that you need to update here is, you just click on this rule section and modify this particular thing. Allow read comma write if. You can either do the true here, but with this true mentioned here, your database can be accessed by anyone in this world without any authentication done. So it's better to do this request.auth is not equal to null, and then click on publish. And this is the safest way to not let attackers enter your database. And now if we check whether user exists or not, so this will be a boolean value, check user exists, async document snapshot, snap is equal to await Firebase Firestore.instance.collection users, and then if we will check the user ID, get if snap.exist, we will return a true and print existing user, else print new user and return a false. Now we can go to our this login screen. So the thing that we are checking here is we'll call our sign-in provider and check whether user exists or not, and then get the value. This will be in async, and I can provide a closing here. If value is equals to true, this means user exists, else user doesn't exist. So when the user exists, what we need to do here is we will be awaiting the service provider, sign-in provider, to go and get the user data from Firestore. So now the part here comes is of Cloud Firestore. So generally the Cloud Firestore works like we have a collection, then a document, and inside the document we store our information. So we can go to sign-in provider, and let's say we can create all the entry for Cloud Firestore. So get user data from Firestore. This is for the users who are already registered to the application. So this can be Firebase Firestore.instance. We will get to the collection that the user exists, and we can get a particular user ID from here, and then async here. Rather, I guess, okay, so I made a mistake here. This will be like this. Then document snapshot, where it went. Okay. Then we can fetch the values like snapshot, and this will be user ID, name, display name, email, image URL, provider, so this was if the user already exists. So this was for that. Now if the user don't exist, then we have to save a particular data. So save data to Firestore. Now we need first of all to create a reference for the document. So this can be our Firebase Firestore dot instance dot collection, and then we will get a user ID and await a set function here. So name, then we will have email, then we have user ID, then we have image URL, and last we have the provider. We can close this and notify our listeners about this particular change that we have made. And again, if we go to this place, first of all, we have no data in right now in our authentication, so no need to worry much. Directly we can move to this section, the user does not exist. So we will code this thing first, and once we create an entry in the database, then we can test this part also. So right now user does not exist in the database. So what we have to do is we will call our sign-in provider to save the data to the Firestore, and then we'll take that particular value and save that particular data to the shared preferences also. So this is an important part. We have to save all the data that we have in the shared preferences, because later on when the user is redirected to the home screen after the user opens the app again, we have all the data from shared preferences fetched again. And this was the part that most of you guys were asking in the comment section, the implementation of shared preferences. So let's say future save data to shared preference. So this can be, first of all we have to call the shared preferences as await shared preferences, and this will be get instance await s dot set string, and the string will be name and a name. This can be null, so we have to write this also. Await set string email, await set string user id, await set string image URL, await set string provider. So we have 1 2 3 4 5, and that's all. We can now notify our listeners about this thing. Perfect. So we can go here and save data to shared preferences. Once that particular data is saved to shared preferences again, so we have to set the sign in also. So here if you see, we were checking the sign in, but there is no place where we are setting that user has been successfully signed in. This means we are not changing the is signed in to true anywhere, so we have to create that thing also. So this will be in async final shared preferences get instance, then set bool signed in, and this can be true, then is signed in is equals to true, notify listeners. Perfect. Now what we need to do here is sign in provider set sign in. Once the sign in is set, then at last what we need to do here is we have to close this thing, and inside this function we will display a success and handle after sign in. We have to create this handle after sign in because this same function will be used by Facebook, the Google, the Twitter, and also the phone authentication. So we can create a common function here, handle after sign in. So the thing that will be here in this handle with sign in here is handle after sign in. This cannot be an async function. We don't need an async to be this. We can display a delay of let's say 100 seconds or rather 1000 seconds, and then do let's say we can create a utility here. This will be next screen .dart, and here next screen we will be using this everywhere, so we can just create it here. Navigator dot push. Navigator is showing error because we need to import material also. Navigator dot push context comma material page route, and this will be page. Same for next screen replace. Navigator dot push replacement material page route, and I guess we can do next screen replace. This will be home screen, and we can also update a splash screen here. This will be next screen, and this will be login screen. So try to use something that will reduce the amount of code that you write and provide a little bit of clear view to the one who is reading your code. So now let's see whether everything is working fine or not. You can do a hot reload. I guess hot reload is not working because of this. So now we can do a hot reload. As we are not signed in, so we will be redirected to this screen, And now the important thing. So let me just open this here and see whether Google sign-in is working totally fine or not in our iOS simulator. If we click on this sign in with Google, but I also want you to see everything that is happening here. So what we can do here is, if I click on sign in with Google, okay, so we lost connection, I don't know why. Let me just restart the app. I don't know why that's closed. Okay, so we restarted the application, and now let's see the debug panel. Sign in with Google. Okay, it is showing me some error here. I guess your app is missing support for following URL. Let's see what's this thing here. Okay, so I guess what we need to do here is we will go to our info.plist, and first of all we can copy this Google services. We can open this Google services info.plist and copy everything that is present here. So we have to add this to our info.plist. Now the place where we can add this particular thing is CF bundle URL type. We need to search for URL types. So there's nothing as URL types. In case we have to create our value. So we can do here is, this can be key and CF bundle URL types. We can then create an array and then a dictionary, and this dictionary will have a key CF bundle type role, then string editor CF bundle, or rather this is not required, we just need to create a URL schema. So I guess CF bundle URL schemes, and then we can create another array with a string of value that we just copied. Let's see whether this will work or not. Okay, so we have some errors here. So you can copy this thing from the description. I will be adding the link there. I guess this will be like this. Let's see whether this will work. Okay, we need to do this. I guess this is not working for me again. Let's see, enter this value here. Let's see if this works. If this don't work, then I guess I would have to open my Xcode for this. Remember, the URL schema is nothing but just reminding the application about the redirection. Like you have seen when authenticating in iOS, whenever a particular authentication like a Google authentication is happening, a new Safari browser window opens up. Now, the opening of that thing is not an issue, but when authentication is successful, there is a need for entry point that will be redirected during the authentication. So the Firebase need to be configured in the manner that the redirection should be added in this info.plist. And how you can get this particular redirection schema is through the Google services that we downloaded. You can see the reserved client ID. This is the client ID that we have for our application. Whenever any successful authentication happens, it will be redirected to that particular application through which it happened. Like a block authentication app will open up a Safari thing, then after authentication it will again open the block authentication. And I guess if things work, this would be working fine. No, this won't be working fine because there's issue here. So we copied the code from this and we forgot to place our own value here. So let me just copy this, and now if I paste this here, and then reload, we need to close the simulator because right now we are editing something that is in the core elements of the iOS folder. This means the hot reload will not work in these folders. So we have to just close the application, then run it again, and it won't take that long. Okay, so we have the application running. Now let's see whether this will work this time or not. If I click on sign in with Google, it is showing me a URL schema. This means if I click on continue, this will open up a Safari window, and here if I enter the email and password for some of my account, it will sign in and redirect to the particular account here, a new user, because we have no values right now. So if I reload, definitely it has added a macflix@gmail.com, and inside our Firestore database also. Let's see whether all values are perfectly fine or not. So this created the particular user ID here. As you can see, we have an email, the image URL, the name, the provider, and the user ID. So this is the thing that I love about Firebase, is everything is documented, everything has been solved before, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to stick with the issue that you are facing, and eventually you will find a solution for that. And that's the beauty of coding, because when you find a solution for anything that you have been stuck in a day or 2 days, the price or the risk to reward ratio is great. So now we got this thing created. We can go to our sign-in provider, or rather not the sign-in provider, we can go to our login screen. What am I doing? I got so much excited, I guess. So the user does not exist, so that's the thing here. And what if the user exists? So we have to do wait sp dot, or rather this will be await sp dot get user data from Firestore, sp dot user id, then sp dot save data to the shared preferences, then sp dot set sign in, then we can do a Google controller dot success, and this will close here, and we can handle after sign in. So the Google authentication is quite done now. I don't think we have much here. If I go to home screen, so I can sign out here and check whether everything is working fine or not. So this can be child elevated button and child text sign out, and on press we need to call our SP. So we can call our SP here context.read sign in provider, and import provider here. And now on press sp dot user sign out, and then handle or rather next screen replace, this will be const screen. Now let's see if I click on sign in, we are redirected here. If I also reload the application, we have to see whether is signed in is working fine or not. And let's say I click on sign in, I select this particular account, this should show me that the user already exists. And let's say, let me just go to my login screen, and here if I, or not the login screen, home screen, here if I don't do a next screen replace, I click on save, I click on sign out, then you can see in the debug console we are we are not showing any sign out activity here. But if I reload the application, I guess we should be redirected to the login screen. Yeah, so the sign out is also working fine. The thing that we need to now do is customizing our home screen, and that's all. The Google authentication will be done from here. Don't need much data here. So like right now, so if you are still following me till here, then this means you are totally committed towards coding better in Flutter, and I promise you, whatever issue you have, you can just mention in the comment section and you can check the data. I'm replying to most of the comment that are having issue in the comment section of my channel. So enough of conversation. Now let me just create an init state, and the reason why I'm creating an init state in the home screen of this file here, let me just go to the home screen, let me just authenticate. And now we can see we are in the home screen, and the reason I am doing an init state here, because whenever the home screen is loaded, I need to fetch the data. And what data? I need to fetch the image URL, I need to fetch the name of the user, I need to fetch the user ID, I need to fetch the provider that was used, but not from our cloud Firestore. I can just directly fetch it from the shared preferences, because I'm storing that data. I'm storing that data in the shared preferences, so I can just call that particular data. So we can write future get data. This will be an async, and final sp, this will be context.read, and the sign in provider. And now all I need to do is sp.get data from sp. But now the twist is we don't have any function that will get the data from the shared preferences. So let's get back to the shared sign in provider again, and the place where we were saving the data to the shared preferences, in below that we'll be creating another function where we will be getting the data, get data from shared preferences. This will be an async. So again we will just initialize shared preferences. Name can be name, email can be email, image URL can be image URL, we have UID, provider can be provider. So 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, we can get this data from here, and at last we can notify the listener that all the data has been fetched. Now we can do get data from shared preferences, and done. And whenever an init state has been called, we just need to call this function get data. Perfect. So now in our home screen, what we need to do here is we will be returning a scaffold. We can return a center, then I guess we need to return a child. This will be column, the main and the cross can be center, and the children can be, let's say, circle of the background image, network image, and I guess SP. And remember, we are to change read to watch to to watch any changes that happen to the provider and not read only. The read only will not fetch the data again and again, while watch will be keeping a watch on everything that has been changing in the data. So we just need to do here is sp dot image URL, and I don't know why this is showing me. Okay, so the reason this was showing me an error, radius can be 50. Okay, so okay, the image is showing me here. I can rather provide a padding. Okay, so padding will not work. Background colors can be white. Yeah, that is okay. You can create a size box. Height can be 20. Text will be welcome. Then the name, sp dot, or rather sp dot name. Style can be text style, 15 let's say, and font weight 500. Welcome Macflix. So this was the name that we have been saved from the database. This can be 10, and we need to also fetch the email address, sp dot email, and we can provide the same thing that we did here, but the font size can be this. Perfect. And then we can display the user ID also. This will become user ID. This is okay. And now we need to create a row. This will be provider. Let's say 5. Color can be colors.red. Sorry for not speaking. I thought of coding it so fast that I just forgot to speak or explain anything. So now we got the row done. The last one that we need to do is the elevated button. On press, this will be sp.user sign out, and the next screen replace sign in screen, or rather we have the login screen. Child can be, let's say, sign out. Perfect. You can just provide and if I click on sign out, we are redirected here. You can click on continue. This is working fine. Let's see. The database is also working fine here. Let me just reload and see. And rest, as far as we see the database, database is also working fine here. If I, let's say, update this Googly, so click on sign out, click on sign in with Google again, click on continue, use this account, we should be shown with this 12345E. So this is showing us here. You can redirect it back, and now this was working fine. The another important thing is many people ask to show the Android emulator also. So let's start a Pixel emulator here. So here you can see we just run the application that we have on our Android emulator, and let's say we log in with the email address, and this should show me as existing user, and yeah. So now the Android and the iOS emulator is working fine for us. The next thing that we need to do is we have to sign in with Facebook. We have to add this authentication method of sign in with Facebook. So now if you go to your Firebase console, here in the authentication section you will see we have this particular user, and then also in the database we have the data for that particular user. The other thing that we have to add now here is add a new provider. We have to enter the app ID for Facebook provider and also the app secret, but we don't have anything as such right now. So we will go to developer.facebook.com. I guess we can remove this. Okay, developers.facebook.com. just click on my application and it will be redirecting you to sign in with Facebook. And after you sign into the Facebook, you will be redirected to this section. I have this sample app working in the background, so let's just create a new application, and this will be a none. We don't need any app type here, and then the display name can be block auth, and create an application. This is asking us for the password. Now, so we have the app ID here, so you can just copy and paste this here, and we have to set up the Facebook login. So you can click on setup, and now it is asking us to start with the step for adding Facebook to our Android and iOS devices. First of all, as Android emulator is running right now, so we will go with the Android installation. So we don't need to download any Facebook SDK here because we already have our package, Flutter Facebook Authentication package. So now important things here are, first of all, we have to copy and paste this inside the app level. So this will be, first of all, let me just close this. iOS part we will be doing later on. Android later on means in this tutorial only. Don't worry that we will be doing the iOS part in other parts. The Google and Facebook authentication will be completed by the end of this video. So right now Android, then app, and then build.gradle, and we have to paste it under this dependencies area, and click on save. We don't need to do anything as such here. So now it is asking for the package name and also the default activity class. So we will go to our Android manifest, and here we can copy the package name here, and then for the default activity class name we just need to copy the package name here and then add a full stop and write main activity. Please remember to keep the main activity in this particular format only. This is a camel case. This means M is capital and A is capital, and click on save and just wait for this to finish. And click on continue. Now the important thing is we have to create a key hash here. So if you are on Windows, what you have to do is, first of all, go to my video which has generated the SHA signature and proceed with everything there, and then after that you can just copy and paste this command in the CMD and everything will be fine for you. So for me, what I have to do here is I'll copy this code, go to my terminal, I'll paste this here. It will ask for the password, and now it has generated the particular key hash for me. So let me just paste this key hash here and click on save, click on continue, click on save, And now we need to go to our app resources value and a strings.xml folder. In Flutter we don't have any strings.xml folder, so we have to create this. So we have to go app, then source, and then main. Then we will go to a resources folder, and here in the values we'll create a new file which will be strings.xml, and here we need to do this thing XML version 1.1 encoding UTF-8. Perfect. This has been done by the tab9 extension only. So now we need to provide a resource here, and first thing will be our app name, which can be Flutter Auth, and the other values will be the values provided by our documentation. So this can be like this. Perfect. We can close this here, and now the other thing will be going to our Android manifest file, and here add the metadata elements to this thing here. So you can add this metadata above this metadata. Okay, let me copy. You can remove this, remove this, remove this, and this is fine here. Now the next thing that we have to do here is we have to add all this code here. We'll copy, and after this activity got completed, we will enter this here. And if you have been remembering how I am doing this, this is with the control and a bracket command, this bracket. Okay, and this can be command and a bracket in Mac, and a control with a bracket in Windows. I'm not remembering what was the name of that particular bracket. And now we have to add this permission of internet. This is an optional, so we don't need to do that. Rest, we don't need anything from here. Click on next. We also don't need to design a login button. We don't need to register any callback, and we don't need to check this. And I guess our Facebook part is done, so we can also proceed with our iOS part. The Facebook part for Android is done. We can proceed with the iOS part. You can click on iOS here and click on next. It is asking for the bundle ID, so we open up our Xcode, and now Xcode is open. Remember, we recently opened this particular folder, so we can just directly go from here. And if you go into this runner, here you have the bundle ID. You can save this, click on continue, then click on next, and now we have to add all of these values here. So let me just first of all take this, go to info.plist, and the first value will be URL types. So I guess we already have done the URL types. Okay, the URL schemes, and we need to add a new string. This will be FB app ID. Or rather, this can be like this, the keys here. So I guess I have to remove this and paste all of these values here. FB app ID. Okay, let's say we do this thing here and paste the app ID. App ID is this, and Facebook app ID will be this. Facebook client token, So for finding the client token, we can go here. We open this in a new tab. We'll be also using the client token here. So this is our client token. Copy this and paste it here. And I guess we are done with our work. So we just added these things here. And other than that, we already have this. Click on next. Don't need to do anything from here. Not this also. We can go back to our dashboard. And also I forgot to place the app secret here. You can copy, paste it here, and now close everything from here. Okay. I guess we have to open this again. If I can see this. Settings, basic app ID. Click on save. Now we got the Facebook enabled. It's time to code our application. So first of all, the thing that I wanted to do right now is close this and run the command again. By the time it is opening our application, we can go to our login screen. And here in a login screen, the things that we need to do is we'll just create another function. This will be like handling Facebook auth. We will write the name of this as handle Facebook auth, and we'll also copy this and place it inside the onPress function. Okay. And now the thing that we need to do here is, first of all, we have this sign-in provider, the internet provider. All these things are okay. We just need to change this to Facebook controller. If there are any error, we change this to Facebook controller. And now we need to replace this as sign in with Google with the sign in with Facebook. Rest everything is perfect. We don't need to change anything from here. All we need to do is create a new function in sign-in provider. So we had our sign in with Google here. We will be creating sign in with Facebook. So now it's time to code our sign in with Facebook. First of all, if you open up a Safari and go to this pub.dev, and here if we open up the Flutter Facebook Auth, the package that we have installed. So I guess if we have any documentation, for making a login request, we will be requiring a result function here first for fetching the result. So this will be future sign in with Facebook. This will be in async. So we can write login result. This will be result and then Facebook auth dot instance dot login. I guess we already have initialized Facebook auth here, so we can just go and write this as Facebook auth dot login. Now getting the profile. I wanted to tell you that if you open up this URL, I will be linking this in the description. Here you can see how to get a better profile photo from Facebook Graph API. So we have to write this command here for getting the profile image, because Facebook don't provide that to us, and this is saying me HTTP is not found as a package. So we need to write HTTP, or rather we have to import HTTP into our Flutter package, Flutter project. We'll just wait for this to finish, and I guess now we can call import HTTP as HTTP, and rest this will show me as an error because we need to do URI.parse, and here Okay. Now it is asking for the FB token. How you can get FB token is we will go to the result and then go to the access token and then fetch the token from there. Now we can fetch the response and store this in a profile. So this will be JSON decode because the result is a response. So we will write JSON decode, then graph response dot body. And now if the result status is login status dot success, if the login is successful, then we can do a try and catch, else has error is equals to true and notify listener. And now we need to do a try and on Firebase. I guess we can copy the on Firebase from here. Okay, we can copy on Firebase. We just need to do Auth credential Facebook auth provider dot credential login. The credential will be our token. The way we fetched here is access token done. And now we can just wait for Firebase to sign in with credential, and we can pass the value of credential there. The important part here is saving the values. So this will be profile. Remember the thing that we have: name, email, the image URL will be picture, the URL, data, and then the URL. We cannot directly fetch the picture because profile photo because it is placed inside this picture, then inside the data, and then the URL for the image of the user. User ID can be, we don't have user ID here, we have ID in Facebook. Has error is equal to false. Notify list, or rather we left something which was provider. This will be Facebook, and then notify listeners. And we can just click on save, and I guess everything should be working fine. We just need to go to this handle Facebook, and here we will write sign in with Facebook, and let's see whether this is working or not. If I just reload, we are redirected from splash screen to the sign in screen. If I click on sign in with Facebook, it will open up a new browser window for me. Invalid app ID. The provided app ID does not look like a valid app ID. So let me see why is this showing this error. If I go to Android manifest, Facebook app ID, okay, I remember. The string that we added, the Facebook app ID and the client token, will need to change those. I just copied from the documentation. The app ID will be this, and client token can be this. And now I just need to close the application and run the app again. You can click on sign in with Facebook. Okay, I'll enter my email and a password. Let's say whether I will be able to sign in. If I click on continue as Shivansh, then this should show me as a new user. Perfect. And this should take me here. As I saw while signing in, the face, I guess I made a change here. To make a change here, this is Google sign in. Okay, Google controller, and in Facebook sign in we need to change this. So this will be Facebook controller dot success and a Facebook controller dot success. And now here you can see we have the Facebook data fetched successfully. And also if you go to the authentication part, we have the Facebook added here, and in database also, I guess. Okay, perfect. So we have this thing also added. This is the image URL from my photo. Okay, so this downloaded the image. So you can just close this. And yeah, so the Android is working fine. Let me just check whether iOS is also working or not. So we can close this thing. We will open up our pixel, not our pixel. We'll open up our iOS simulator. And now let's see whether our iOS simulator is working or not. We'll go to run without debugging and open up our debug console and see what changes we can see here. We'll just wait for this to start. Okay, so we just got the Xcode build done. I guess this should start any time. And we are getting the application opened here. And let's see whether we are able to sign in using Facebook and Google. So if I click on sign in with Facebook, okay, so this exited the application. I don't know why. Let me just report and see what exceptions we got here. So I'll be fixing this and be coming soon. Just give me a minute. Okay, so I was going through the info.plist, and as I go to the info.plist, I was a little bit confused whether I have doing this right or not. So then I went to the documentation of this Flutter Facebook authentication, and here you can see, first of all, in this URL schemes, before this app ID, I need to provide the FB sign here. So this will be FB, and now we can just close this and run this again on an iPhone 11 Pro Max. So all I did is I went to this info.plist, and the place where we created this URL schema, we entered the app ID for Facebook here, but then we forgot to add FB in front of it. So now let's see whether this will work or not. Just wait for this to finish. Okay, so here you can see in the debug console the Xcode build has been done. Now let's see whether our application will work or not. If I click on sign in with Facebook, and now this is showing me a continue, and let's say I log in with email ID and a password. Click on login and click on continue. It should be redirected here, and also in our debug console we should be shown with an existing user, and perfect. So the Android and iOS simulator is working fine. The sign in with Google is done. Sign in with Facebook is done. In the next part, we'll be doing the sign in with phone authentication and also sign in with Twitter. But I wanted to tell you something, that if you are going to do the authentication with Twitter, first of all, you can go to developers.twitter.com, and here you can just sign in with the account that you have, and then visit the particular developer portal and create a new project. So I have created a block login here. So if you go to this products, Twitter API version 2, so the first and foremost thing that you will be shown where is, if you create a new application, the plan will be an essential plan. But the problem is that with the essential plans, we are not able to fetch the user profiles. So you can do, what you can do here is, you can create a new application here, and then request for the elevated plan, and I guess it will take less than 24 hours for the Twitter community to respond to your query, or rather request for this elevated plan, and then you can do that. This is totally a free option. So after you code this Google and Facebook, you can take a rest for one day, and then by that time you can just apply this Twitter authentication also. So I guess this was everything for this tutorial. All the best and keep coding. Thank you.